What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So I wanted to do this. I wanted to break down everything you need to know about the Georgia-Ohio State playoff matchup. So let's get into it, starting with the coaching staff. Kirby Smart, 79-15 now as the head coach of Georgia, 6-2 bowl record. That includes the national championship, and it also includes what has he won? It now includes two SEC championships. Ryan Day, 45-5, currently with a 2-2 bowl record, and also does have the Big Ten championship win in 2020, and that also includes the playoff win against Clemson in 2020 as well. And then obviously lost the national championship. Kirby Smart obviously losing a national championship as well. So this game will be the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, New Year's Eve. Should be a good rockin' venue in Atlanta. Last two times these two teams met, Georgia and Ohio State met in 1983. Georgia came away with a 21-14 victory. That was in the Citrus Bowl. Ohio State comes in 11-1, Georgia 13-0, Georgia SEC champions. Ohio State was 11-0 and then lost to Michigan, but still got in the playoffs because of USC losing. They snuck into that 4 spot, so it's going to be a 1-4 matchup. And starting with the big news, Ohio State's going to be without Jackson Smith and Jigba at wide receiver. On the offensive line, it all starts number 77, Paris Johnson, who's going to be one of the top draft-eligible tackles in the draft. Started all 13 games last year for him at right guard. Bumped over to left tackle this year, and has been very good. It's been an Ohio State offensive line that's been pretty solid overall. I do like them as a pass blocking unit overall. Pretty good. We got number 74, Donovan Jones at left guard, Luke Whippler at center, Matthew Jones at right guard, and then big DeJuan Jones at right tackle. DeJuan Jones, 6'8", 359 pounds. They list him. Another guy who's played a lot of football for the Ohio State for this, overall experience group. Matthew Jones, another guy, played a lot of football as well. And Ohio State skill position. So let's get into it. It starts with C.J. Stroud, great quarterback. Stroud has now started. It's his second year starting. Started all of the 2021 season, then all of this year in 2022. What was it? Last year missed a game last year, and I think he's played every game this year. Guys, feel free to correct me in the comments. And then tight end Cade Stover, their top tight end, 399 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season. At the wide receiver position, it starts. Marvin Harrison is their stud. I was going to say likely, but I'll say Marvin Harrison is the best receiver in the nation. 1,157 yards to go along with 12 receiving touchdowns. Also have Emeka Ogbuka, who's got 1,039 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns. Julian Fleming's their third option, 462 yards, 6 touchdowns. Is a guy that has dealt with some drops, but a pretty solid overall receiver, and another one of those, very highly touted, highly recruited receivers that they have. The big question at running back, will Travion Henderson play? Has a broken bone in his foot and is also dealing with, some issue. There's also some other damage to the foot as well. So the big question if he's going to play or not. Mayan Williams is another guy that's played a lot of football for him this year. Do have Chip Trainum, the Arizona State transfer, and Dallin Hayden, the freshman, who's also had some nice games, including a big-time game in the Maryland game. Defense, JT Tuimoloau on the defensive line is definitely a notable guy. Maybe their best defensive player. Had a coming out party against Penn State, just a true sophomore, and does have 2 sacks. Did have 2 sacks and interception for a touchdown. Ty Hamilton on the defensive tackle. They also have Teron Vincent, Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison, the guy with a lot of experience. is never really necessarily lived up to the hype that he came in with. I mean, Harrison was a 5-star. I don't know if he was the number 1 player in the country, but he was at least a top 5 recruit overall. 3 sacks this year, 3 forced fumbles, 1 interceptions. You know, the numbers, obviously the sacks low, but the numbers overall don't sound bad. But Harrison has never really become that dominant pass rusher, but a solid player nonetheless. And they do have Jack Sawyer. Sawyer was another guy that came in the 2021 class with Tui Moloau. He's a guy that's had a couple big games, 4.5 sacks this year. Like I said, big-time recruit, 5-star out of Pickerington, Ohio. They have in the number 51 Michael Hall and Tyleek Williams. Hall was a guy that really burst onto the scene early versus Notre Dame, and you thought that he was going to really be that superstar X factor, and it's kind of tailed off, but still a pretty good player for him this year. But hasn't really become that dominant interior presence that Ohio State's still kind of been searching for. At linebacker, it's Tommy Eichenberg. Eichenberg's dealing with 2 broken, I don't know, is it thumbs, but two broken bones in his hand, and is as tough as they come at the linebacker position. You also have Steele Chambers, former running back. He's been a solid linebacker, started all of last year basically for him, and has started all at this year. Also have Cody Simon in the linebacker rotation. At DB, it's number 10, Denzel Burke. Burke has played a lot of football for him, now just a true sophomore. I would say he is their best corner on the Ohio State team. Lathan Ransom, Josh Proctor make up the safety positions. Also did bring over Tanner McAllister. He was a transfer from Oklahoma State. Ronnie Hickman has declared for the draft. It looks like he's not going to play in this game. They also have Jordan Hancock and Cameron Martinez as backup players that have played a little bit this year in the secondary. So that's basically it for Ohio State that I wanted to touch on as far as their roster. But so let's get into Georgia. At the offensive line, it starts with Broderick Jones at left tackle. Broderick Jones, he's a big fella. Like a lot of the guys on their offensive line, started every game this year. 2021 first team, all SEC freshman team. Got Xavier Truss at left guard, played in all 13 games and started 12 at left guard. Cedric Van Pran started all 15 games last year on the national title team. Tate Rutledge at left guard, and then you got Warren McClendon makes out the right tackle. The tight ends is where it gets super fun for Georgia. Brock Bowers, 726 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. And then you got Darnell Washington, 416 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is pretty much the best tight end. I got to stop saying pretty much. This is the best tight end group in the country, and they're going to be a matchup problem for Ohio State and then in the national championship, whoever team they may face. Quarterback, you got Stetson Bennett. Bennett, the Heisman finalist, offensive MVP of the national championship last year. 3,425 pass yards, 20 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions this season. Receiver, Georgia does have a lot of depth. Marcus Roseberry, Jack Saint, Ladd McConkey, Kyrus Jackson, Dominic Blaylock, A.D. Mitchell. McConkey and Rosemary Saint have really become the go-to guys. Kyrus Jackson, Blaylock, A.D. Mitchell have had flashes as well. A.D. Mitchell was a guy that really flashed last year in the playoffs, but hasn't really been super productive this season, but does have some upside. Running back, they got Kenny McIntosh, their leading rusher. Kendall Milton. Dejon Edwards is a guy that's played some good football as of late. Had 106 rush yards against the Florida Gators. A team that runs the ball very well despite not having several superstars at the running back position. And then the defensive line got Tremel Walther. I don't know if I'm saying that right. At DN, Zion Logue, Jalen Carter, who is the best defensive player in the nation, super disruptive, just a big physical presence. What hurt is they lost Nolan Smith for the year. Big loss there. Nolan Smith, a guy with a lot of experience, former number one recruit out of high school, a guy that's been on this roster since 2019. And then you got Robert Beal Jr., Nazir Stackhouse. Stackhouse has been a good player as far as in the rotation. Jamon Dumas Johnson is their leading tackler at linebacker. And then Small Munden. That makes out the linebacking core. And then Robert Beal Jr. As like their outside. DB's Keely Ringo. Some believe he is the best corner in this draft. I haven't broke down Ringo's tape, but I've watched him play a lot. He's a guy that started pretty much all of last year at corner and, has done some nice things this year. 6 passes defended, 2 interceptions. They got Chris Smith at safety, a guy with a lot of experience, a lot of tackles, a lot of interceptions, and is the veteran secondary. And then Malachi Starks, the 5-star true freshman, who has 7 pass breakups and was a big-time recruit, like I said, true freshman with a very bright future, and a guy that really wants to make some plays, had a tremendous interception against Oregon. And then Javon Bullard at the star, which is like their slot corner. Bullard, a guy just not giving up a lot of yardage in coverage this year for Georgia. And then you got Kamari Lassitier at corner to kind of make out the Georgia roster. So, yeah, that's kind of both teams' depth chart. What stands out to me is, Georgia really doesn't have the studs like they did last year on defense, but, this is a defense that's still very good. And, a lot of people have said it that, Georgia doesn't have to be as good as last year. You just got to be, as good as the teams this year. And it's going to be interesting. This game just has my interest 100% because it's going to be so interesting to see how Ohio State's offensive line, how they match up in the trenches against Georgia. So I think this game you're going to be able to tell early what kind of game this is. This game kind of is how, like, I think TCU and Michigan are going to play. I think Ohio State is just going to need to score as many points as they can early because, Georgia is going to try to break their will and going to try to really take control of the trenches in the second half. So Ohio State try to, if you can, get on top, if you can really try to create some matchups, Kaylee Ringo versus Marvin Harrison is going to be a tremendous matchup to watch. Those two are really going to go at it all game, and it's going to be super fun to watch. But, without Jackson Smith and Jigba not playing is a tough blow, but, you got to believe some other guy will step up on Ohio State's offense if they come out victorious, whether it be Obuka, Chip Trainum, Dallin Hayden. You got to believe that there's going to be another guy that would step up big other than Marvin Harrison in this game if Ohio State comes out with a win. And it could just be, C.J. Stroud distributing it to everyone. That could be a likely scenario. But, I don't know. You got to believe that there'll be a lot of quick throws to take because, Georgia, especially without Nolan Smith, they don't really have that speed rusher that can get to the quarterback quickly. So you got to believe there's going to be some quick throws, and they're going to try to go tempo, try to wear out Georgia, maybe test their depth a little bit. I know they do have some decent depth, but it's not like they did last year necessarily. And, Georgia's linebacker, Dumas Johnson and Munden are pretty good players, but they don't really have, the Nakobe Dean, that true leader that's just going to, fly around and make, almost every tackle. But we'll see how those guys are challenged as far as in the run game and in the passing game. But the Georgia secondary versus the Ohio State wide receiver core, that is must-see TV, and it's going to be fun. And, the Ohio State defensive line versus the Georgia offensive line should be interesting. You would think Ohio State should be able to hold their own. You got to, if they're at least even, if they can be even with Georgia, that's a huge win for this team. And, Georgia, Georgia wants to run the football, play physical. Yeah, if they're at least even on the line of scrimmage, the Ohio State's D line, I think that's huge. And if you're Ryan Day and Jim Knowles, you can't be selling out to stop the run in this game. They're going to have to make some adjustments. But Vegas -6.5. Vegas and a lot of people believe Ohio State's going to be close and that they can pull the upset in this game. This is a game I've been wanting for a while because you've seen Ohio State. Ohio State has struggled with SEC opponents, going all the way back to Jim Tressel. But this is a matchup that a lot of people wanted last year. Obviously, you didn't get it because Michigan defeated them last year, and Michigan ended up taking on Georgia in that first round. But if Ohio State did beat Michigan, they likely would have played Georgia in that first round. So, a matchup that we could have had last year, we do get to see this year, even though this year we almost didn't, get to see it because, we were a USC win away from Georgia USC in this game. So I'm going to wrap with that, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in to Big Time Football Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time. Peace.